Hello, faithful, and welcome to the 49ers Plus podcast. I'm Al Moriello, and this is your source for the most objective 49ers discussion, only smart takes, never any clickbait. Let's jump right into the 49ers 42-26 loss to the Rams yesterday. I'm recording this on Monday afternoon. I'll tell you what, fans, they really would have won this game if they traded for Jermaine Johnson. I mean, the Niners absolutely would have won this game if they had just traded for Kayvon Thibodeaux. It is so ridiculous what so-called fans are saying since the Niners dropped this game to a clearly superior Rams team. And now we are in the period of, since the trade deadline passed, this past Tuesday, of the Niners really needed to make a move. Their organization is waving the white flag. I'm hearing that. You're hearing folks putting stuff on social media about there's being frustration inside the organization that they didn't make a trade. Yeah, I'm sure Parag or Kyle or John, assistant GMs, potentially some players maybe were frustrated they were not able to pull the trigger on a trade. But I'm pretty sure they're also happy that they didn't get fleeced getting, Kayvon Thibodeaux for a first rounder that the Giants were asking for, or a second rounder for Jermaine Johnson from the Jets. Because remember, it's the pick plus the money. So now you have all these non-tent creators, these fake fans or emotional fans who can't see the forest for the trees or don't understand that this team is not one player away. But Al, if they had Will McDonald had 4 sacks for the Jets yesterday against the Browns. If they had just traded for him, that would have been the different. Jermaine Johnson, Will McDonald, Kayvon Thibodeaux. It was never going to be Trey Hendrickson. It was never, ever, ever going to be Max Crosby. Jalen Phillips wouldn't have made a difference. Again, the false narrative out there is about the Niners giving up on the season or spitting in the fans' faces because they didn't make trade number 5. Because remember the 4 trades before that: Bryce Huff, Brian Robinson, Sky Moore, and Keon White. If Keon White was traded deadline day and Clelin Ferrell was signed to the practice squad deadline day, completely different tenor. I promise you, from Niner fans. The fact that it didn't happen on deadline day or 15 minutes before the 4 o'clock Eastern deadline had fans and still has fans in a ridiculous tizzy. Just goes to show where folks' priorities are, or who governs by emotion versus being more objective, like this guy, and a bit more logical in terms of what the team's needs are. But this week, and since the trade deadline, this narrative of the Niners giving up on the season and yada, yada, yada is being pushed harder than Sabrina Carpenter's PR staff trying to make us all believe that she's sexy. What she is basically a Cabbage Patch doll. And for those of you who are too young to remember these from the 80s, look it up. She's a Cabbage Patch doll with entirely too much makeup on and dressed like a slut. But the narrative out there, Sabrina Carpenter, no tits, but sexy. False. False, false, false. And the narrative out there is that the Niners are giving up on the season, waving the white flag. False, 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 when they still have a chance at the NFC West and probably a better chance at an NFC wild card. But if it's not the Super Bowl, if you're not swinging for the fences, forget all the injuries and all the young players that are getting playing time, Jermaine Johnson. That was the key. That was the key. 1.5 sacks this year, coming off of a torn Achilles. That Guys, that is the player you want. No, Jalen Phillips, who went to the Eagles, coming off of an ACL 2 years ago and a torn Achilles last year. That's the difference maker. That's the difference maker as a third-round pick. Come on, guys. Get your head out of your asses. Social media is the worst for a lot of reasons because it gives morons a platform. And when morons have a platform, morons think they actually have a voice. But let's move on. The Niners lost. So I ask you this question. So what? I knew it would happen. I thought it would be a little bit more competitive. I picked the Rams 27-20, but I was toying with like a 10 or 13 point Ram win. But I guess my Niner fandom couldn't bring myself to say that. But I knew they were going to lose this game. Far too many Niner fans out there were picking the Niners to win this game. What is wrong with you? Yeah, they won in week 5. They won in week 5. Was there any guarantee that what happened in week 5 was going to happen this week? Week 5 was with Warner. This is without Warner. Week 5 was without Kittle. This was with Kittle. And scoring 26 points, great. Yeah, the last touchdown came in the fourth quarter, but as far as I'm concerned, everybody's still playing offense and defense, right? Put up 26 points on a really good defense, and 26 points is going to beat most teams, just not the Rams that proved in week 5 their passing game could shred Saleh's defense every day of the week and twice on Sundays. But what were the keys to win? What did the Niners have to emulate from week 5? Win the turnover battle, win the time of possession battle, and control both running games. Nope, nope, and nope. Equals loss. Getting down 21-0 on the Rams' first 3 offensive drives, touchdown, 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 didn't help. Jennings fumbling inside Rams territory on the Niners' second drive, didn't help. The Niners getting stuffed on 4th and 1 inside the Rams' 25, didn't help. Mac throwing an interception on 4th down late in the game, didn't help. Might not have changed the outcome, but we can agree it did not help. Losing the turnover battle 3-0. Yes, 2 actual turnovers, a fumble and a pick, and a turnover on downs. The NFL does not count that as a turnover. It's a turnover, guys. It's a turnover. Losing the turnover battle 3-0 guarantees they would not win a game like this against the quality of opponent like the Rams. They lost to the Jaguars 26-21 and lost the turnover battle 4-0. And they were still in that game until the last drive. But the Rams are not the Jaguars. The Rams, led by Stafford and Puka and Devontae Adams and Kyron Williams and Blake Corum and 4 tight ends that are catching passes, and obviously McVay offensively, and a top 3 defense, top 5 DVOA team in offense and defense, only them and the Seahawks in the NFL. You're not going to win a game like that. Rams aren't the Jaguars. The Niners have been in every game this year, and they fought back. Down 21-0, they cut it to a 1-score game, 21-14. Rams answer, 28-14. Niners answer again, 28-21. And then the game, 28-20, missed the extra pointer, got blocked. And then the game got away from them. But again, so what? In your heart of hearts, did you really think the Niners were going to win this game? Be fortunate that they split with the Rams. They got that first win already. Just in case it comes down to any sort of tiebreaker scenario, they're 3-1 in the division. The Rams and the Seahawks still have to play twice. And we'll figure out, based on who wins this upcoming game, who we as Niner fans should be rooting for when they play again. But the NFC West isn't lost. The NFC playoffs isn't lost. Said for the past couple of podcasts, this does not feel like a Super Bowl season, obviously, and that's okay with the youth and the injuries. But to make a wild card at, say, 10-7 goes a long way. Hey, it's another game for us to watch as fans. And who knows? I mean, if they go to Philly or Detroit or the Rams, I mean, they're going to be a significant underdog that game. But no more Niner football is better than less. Anybody out there that's saying, oh, just go for the tank for the higher draft pick. They should have. I was texting or messaging with some brainchild on Twitter. Yo, bro, I called it last year, bro. They should have just blown it up, bro. You know what? Release every player over 30 years old, bro. Like, there's just nothing going on here. And yeah, this would have been the same knuckle dragging mouth breather that if they released anybody or everybody of talent on the team, and this was a 2-8 team right now, he'd be bitching and moaning that they didn't just retool. Why'd they have to get rid of all the players, bro? Now there's nobody on the field, bro. I mean, you can't win with fans unless you can be somewhat level-headed. Grant Cohn's not. He's a cocksucker. His entire clique are a bunch of misery monger cocksuckers that are just waiting for I told you so. Where's the I told you so here? Is there anyone I told you so saying with all these injuries and everything that's been going on that they'd be 6-4? Is anyone saying if I could have had a crystal ball and picked out all these injuries that the Niners would still be 6-4? That's an I told you so. This is a holy shit, they're still in it moment. They're not the Panthers. They're a game better than the Panthers, but let me get to my point. Panthers lost to the Saints yesterday 17-7. They were a 5-4 team battling for a wild card. They're still battling for a wild card. Now they're 5-5. The Buffalo Bills, everybody's darling, and especially a lot in the Grant Cohn clique, just want to drop to their knees and suck off Josh Allen, got blasted by the Miami Dolphins, who fired their GM this week. Everybody thought Mike McDaniel was a dead man walking. Team didn't have a pulse. Lost in Miami 30-13. Yes, lost by one more point to the Dolphins than the Niners lost to the Rams. That's a loss you could be upset about, that you could be absolutely pissed about. Division game, AFC game against an absolute garbage bag team, and you get ass rolled? Not saying you can't be upset about a loss. No, they lost by 16. They got killed. 2-score game. Who cares? At this point, you lose. Who cares? They actually left the first game all year. They left the game without any injuries. At least take that away from it. But there was a lot of bad. The defense, let's start with that. Bad, allowing touchdowns on the first 3 drives. Minimal to no resistance. Saleh, if you're this defensive wizard, how about slowing them down? You talk about all gas, no brakes. That was the Rams offense the first 3 drives. But there was minimal to no resistance because the Rams are a very good team. Stafford's a very good quarterback. McVay's a very good play caller. They scheme things open a ton, but it's also because the Niners don't have the horses on defense. Notice I said horses, not a horse. They're not missing a horse on defense, guys. They are missing horses, known as Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, Mykel Williams, Yetur Gross-Matos. Alfred Collins was out this game. Everybody's favorite training camp hero, Sebastian Valdez, was called up from the practice squad. And I saw some idiot on Twitter saying, yo, bro, Sebastian Valdez wears 55, just like Ahmad Brooks from like 12 years ago. I see some similarities, bro. Yeah, you see similarities between a 310-pound defensive tackle and an outside linebacker. Put your fan card away. You don't see shit. And guess what? Valdez wasn't even active. Just got called up, made a game day check, which is more expensive than a practice squad check. Good for him. Practice squad hero, just like Drew Moss. Oh, he's going to be good, bro. He's going to be good. Cut. This defense, I mentioned horses. This defense is essentially a stagecoach, and you need it to be pulled by multiple thoroughbreds, like the ones I mentioned. One horse ain't going to do shit. You get one horse pulling a stagecoach, you're not going anywhere. You might be going backwards. Or the horse might be breaking a leg, straining itself, and then being sent to the glue factory, although there probably weren't glue factories back when there were stagecoaches. Now, Saleh did not have answers for 13 personnel. You heard that on the telecast, meaning 3 tight ends. Minimal personnel changes, but no schematic adjustments, right? They ran the ball at will, 13 personnel. All 4 tight ends caught a pass. I can't remember the last time the Niners had 4 tight ends active where all 4 caught a pass, or really when 3 tight ends caught a pass. Maybe it's happened this year when Kittle's been healthy. I don't know. I'd have to look into it. But we know that that's a rarity. McVay gets everybody involved, and he got the running game involved, both Kyren Williams and Blake Corum. I think they split carries. I think Williams had 14 carries, Corum had 13, something around there. But in total, 30 rushes for 126 yards and 2 touchdowns. Damage-wise, 4 yards a carry, but it looked a lot worse than that watching the game. Saleh and the defense, why not play a 5-man line like the Rams do? Why not crowd the line like the Rams do and try to take the running game away? This wide 9 stuff, and I've been saying it for years, will work when you have a pass rush and you are going up against a bottom 12 quarterback in the league. The inverse means it will not work when you don't have a pass rush and you're going up against a top 10 quarterback in the league. Hence, they got shredded. Their commitment to the wide, if the wide 9 is most effective for generating a pass rush, why are they still employing it so much when their pass rush is dick? I think it's fair to say if Chris Shula was the defensive coordinator of the Niners and Kyle Shanahan had a stroke or took the handcuffs off, Chris Shula would have called a more aggressive game plan against the Rams than Robert Saleh did. Robert Saleh is a very good defensive coordinator, but he's under Shanahan's thumb when it comes to the cover 3 and the wide 9. Said it before, if Jim Schwartz was the defensive coordinator, if Flores from Minnesota was the DC, Steve Spagnuolo, hell, Bill Belichick, if he was the defensive coordinator, Romeo Crennel, throw him in there, Shanahan would have them neutered. He would be playing with their testicles in his hand like a stress balls, plural, while the game is going on. This is the defense Kyle wants to run. He believes it's the defense that gives him the most problems. No, it's not. It's what Spagnuolo runs, obviously. It's what Jim Schwartz runs in Cleveland, obviously. It's what Brian Flores runs in Minnesota, obviously. Why do I say obviously? Because we've seen it all happen and struggle with those DCs and those defensive formations or sets or schemes that they run. The cover 3 wide 9 is great if you can import the Seattle Seahawks defense from 2011 or 2012, 2013, whenever they won the Super Bowl and were a really dominant team. Or the 2019 Niners. Maybe the 2013 Niners if you have a completely different defensive coordinator. Steve Wilks, garbage. Why can't this team blitz for shit? It is the most predictable looking, not getting their blitz of almost any team that I watch in the NFL. No safety on this team can cover. Jair Brown can't cover. Marquise Siegel certainly can't cover. Jason Pinnock, as the big nickel, I guess, he comes in as a pseudo linebacker, could cover some tight ends, but I wouldn't, put him up out there against, wide receivers. And you really have an alignment where Malik Mustafa is covering Devontae Adams from the slot on an out that was a ridiculously easy throw and catch that any one of us could have made. It's almost like Nick Sorensen double covering Justin Jefferson last year at Minnesota with 2 safeties. Some things you just can't do. You cannot have these safeties covering a receiver. I don't even care what receiver it is. It could be a wide receiver on crutches on the field. You cannot have one of these safeties covering a wide receiver. Stafford, a great game. Good for me. Had him on one of my fantasy teams. And now that's because I also have Jordan Love and Jaden Daniels is hurt. So Love playing against the Eagles wasn't really an option. And Stafford's playing like a beast, right? What now? 25 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, whatever it is. Threw for 280 and 4 touchdowns. Complete mastery over the game. But can you believe he actually threw for 100 less yards than week 5? Didn't it seem worse? Didn't it seem just like a more dominant throwing game, more passing yards? But no, he went for almost 390 week 5 against the Niners. 280, 390, doesn't matter. Well, actually, it did matter. Threw for 390, they lost. Threw for 280, they won. Rams ran the ball better, about 50. I mean, not a ton, about 50 yards better than what they did week 5. But getting into a 21-0 hole after 3 possessions, tough to claw out of. Now, offensively, the Niners moved the ball outside of their first 3 drives because you go punt, you go fumble, you go punt, and then you go turnover on downs. Your first 4 possessions. Can't start slow, Kyle. I know you're scripting the first 15 to 20 plays. Can't start slow against a really good team, but a really good offensive team led by Sean McVay. Rams had 401 yards of total offense. Niners 393. Niners had 393 on a significantly much better defense. The Niners were 4 of 5 in the red zone. The only time they were stopped was when McCaffrey got stopped on 4th and 1. Problem is, the Rams were 5 of 6 in the red zone. Those 2 early turnovers, the fumble, and listen, that's still a great play by the Rams, punching it out of JJ and stopping McCaffrey on a 4th and 1. God forbid, a QB sneak there. Maybe they resulted in 6 points. Maybe they lose by 10, 42-32. But this is a Niner offense that scored 26 on a Rams defense that let up 20 points in the last 3 games combined. We're not taking moral victories out of this. We're going to show that the Niners, even without Brock and Ayuk and Pearsall, put up points on the Rams. And usually in an NFL game, if you're scoring mid-20s, you have a really good chance of winning. The defense got shredded, but the defense is not one player away, guys. Oh, man, but Jermaine Johnson could have been the difference. Kayvon Thibodeau, he's the answer. If Kayvon Thibodeau's the answer, I don't know what the question is. Mac played great outside of the pick. He outplayed Stafford, only 6 incompletions, 319 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception. The O-line was like a wall. Rams pass rush they might have gotten near Mac twice. Once he kind of scrambled around a little bit, found Luke Farrell for a walk-in touchdown, and then another one where he kind of scrambled and threw it away. But no sacks allowed. Rams only sacked the Niners once last game. For a team that came in with 27, 29 sacks, they were an absolute wall for Mac. The run game, again, struggling. 21 for 74 and 1 touchdown. Funny enough, the output, the 74 yards, was similar to week 5. I think they had 76 or 78, but the Niners had 33 carries in week 5. They were able to stay on the field on 3rd downs. They were able to win the time of possession battle by about 11 minutes. Niners are consistent, though, I'll say that. They scored 26 points against the Rams in both games. For whatever that's worth, nothing, but it's a fact. And lastly, there is no quarterback controversy. Anybody out there drumming it up is absolutely ridiculous. People are making a big deal when Kyle said that Brock could have gone today, but they held him back. The question, though, for those that actually listen to the press conferences, the question was, Kyle, there was some discussion about Brock being the backup today. Could he have been the backup? And Kyle's answer was, yes, he could have gone, but we decided to hold him back. People have skewed that to say Brock could have started. Maybe that's actually the case. But the way Kyle answered the question was regarding Brock being the backup. They wanted to give Brock an extra week to heal. Not a bad idea when this was a not winnable game anyway. How much better could Brock have played that the Niners would have won? Was Brock playing defense? Was Brock bringing in 3 defensive ends from the street to help play, or a safety or 2 that could cover? Brock would not have made a difference, guys. And that's a testament to how well Mac Jones played this week. He threw 2 touchdowns last week against the Giants. The 2 games before that, Mac Jones was touchdownless. So this idea of playing the hot hand, Before the Giant game, I wasn't necessarily sure that Mac was the hot hand. The Giant game, it was an efficient hand. And I thought he played, if you want to say hot hand game from the Rams, 33 of 39. Really good stat line against this Rams team. Didn't get a lot of help on the ground because Chris Shula and the Rams were taking that away because they play 5-man fronts like crazy, and Kyle still can't figure out how to beat that. It's been a couple of years, still can't figure out how to beat that. And that's, listen, that's more of a kudos to the scheme. But because of the dedication to taking away the run, that's why Mac had 39 passes and came through going 33 for 39. But there is no quarterback controversy, and it's been floated out there. Oh, looks like Brock's trending to play next week against Arizona. What is that based on? Everything Kyle said about Ricky, about Yetur, about Brock, about Ayuk has all been dick teases, underestimating the severity of the injury. I'll believe it when I see it. Right now, Pearsall is more important to get back for the offense than Brock, because Pearsall was having a really good season before he got hurt and can be an added difference maker on offense. That's not a knock on Brock or anything, but how much more do you think we're going to get out of Brock than they've gotten out of Mac, at least the last 2 games? Mac's had some bad games too. Mac's been a little bit of a roller coaster, played well, overall played well. Overall, what, 5-3? Way more than you expected to get out of your backup quarterback, even though he's a backup that has significant starting experience in this league. But there is no QB controversy, guys. No QB controversy at all. It's Brock's team. Fortunately, they have Mac signed for 2026 as well. They can think about maybe trading him in the offseason and getting something for him, or keeping him. But make no mistake about it, there's not, if Mac's with the team next year, there's no QB competition at all. They bring a similar game passing wise, but Brock adds the element of mobility. Gotten to the team to playoffs twice, gotten to the Super Bowl, and was an MVP finalist. Where has Mac done any of that in his career? Past performance matters. That's building the resume. So many people are too short-sighted. Knee-jerk reactions. What have you done for me lately? Brock's already about Grant Cohn, cocksucker extraordinaire. Mac's already a better quarterback than Brock. No, he's not. That's like saying you're a better journalist than Matt Mayoko. No, you're not. You're a chump in a chain who, when I listen to the press conferences, you speak so quickly to get your one question in because you're probably afraid that an actual journalist is going to speak over to you, and you don't ask anything of substance. Why don't you just ask Kyle how his bowel movement was the night before the game? Why don't you ask Kittle how much hair he's going to take off the next time he gets his haircut? You're a nobody that asks nobody questions, but you're a nobody that's got a decent following on Twitter because there were so many morons and people that just love the drama and love the misery. There is no quarterback controversy. Instead, there is a thank you, God, that we have Mac Jones and that he has kept the Niners afloat, still battling for the NFC West and an NFC wildcard spot. Now, final thoughts on the game. How about this one? No penalties on the Rams. Were the Niners playing the Chiefs there for a second? I mean, there were some early hits on receivers you could have thrown a flag on. Obviously, now let's move to George Kittle in motion, got set for a second, was called a legal motion on a 3rd down out. That would have been pass interference on the Rams, but it was offsetting penalties. 4th down, or the next play, because that was 4th down. Next play was intercepted. Brock was trying to make a play, but again, if he had seen McCaffrey sooner or went somewhere else with the ball, could have kept the drive alive. The Niners would have lost by less. First division loss, guys. We're in November, almost mid-November, 2nd week of November. First division loss. 6-4 team. And again, I said it before, week 5 against the Rams, the difference was the Niners got 2 turnovers. This game, the Rams got 3 turnovers. That's the difference. That's a big part of the difference between the Niners winning by 3 and losing by 16. And the defensive effort by Sanford, I don't want to say effort, the defensive execution by San Francisco was better week 5 than it was yesterday against the Rams. Now, if you want to say it was execution or the Rams offense out executing San Francisco, you could look at it both ways. At some point, you got to tip the cap. It's not all Niners stink, blow it up. Sometimes the other team plays better. Sometimes the other team has a better offensive drive than what you're putting forth defensively, and vice versa. It can happen. It's allowed to happen. I think what's concerning, though, this game did not concern me nearly as much as the Texans game. Because, and the Texans, so think about it this way. Texans and Rams, borderline comparable defenses, right? Comparable. Niners didn't look good against the Texans. Niners offense looked good against the Rams. Not perfect, looked good. Did enough to give them a chance if the defense held up their end of the bargain. Rams offense, very good, got shredded, somewhat understandable. Texans offense, not very good. Niners defense got shredded, wildly unacceptable. Texans game concerns me much more than the Rams game, given what the offense looked like and how the defense got absolutely steamrolled. I said this at the top, but it's worth repeating. No one player would have changed the outcome. Not Brock, not Pearsall, not Ayuk, not Bosa, not Warner, not Trey Hendrickson, not Kayvon Thibodeau, not Max Crosby. No one player would have changed the outcome of this game. And I saw another moron on Twitter saying, well, what if the Niners had traded for name your player and that player had a sack or got the Niners off the field on 3rd down, or the Rams would have just slid protection over to the one guy that could actually rush the passer. How about that? But if you want to play the what if game, what if the Niners didn't have 3 turnovers? What if San Francisco wasn't so injured? What if Stafford got hurt in pregame warmups? What if the Rams were without Stafford and Puka and Devontae Adams and Byron Young and Jared Verse, among a host of others that are comparable to the players the Niners are missing? What do you think the game would have looked like then? No guarantee that the Niners would have won that game, but the Rams ain't putting up 42. You could say that for sure. Oh, but you got to play the hand you're dealt. Yes, you have to play the hand you're dealt. The Niners have been dealt a completely shitty hand. They're not even playing from the same deck. Everybody at the table is playing with an actual deck of playing cards. The Niners are being dealt Uno. What Shanahan and Lynch and the players are getting out of this season at 6-4, still in the thick of everything, is a testament to coaching, young players learning on the fly, veterans taking on a veteran role and leadership role when they're actually playing, or even when they're hurt, because both Bosa and Warner were at the game. We know, and I said it before, it's not a Super Bowl year. We know it. And I can't tell you how to do your fandom. I'll do me, you do you, all good. But it does not mean as an organization or a player or a fan that you give up on the season or you give up on the playoffs because you're not reaching the Super Bowl. One, because you have no idea how injury luck could change for teams that are ahead of you. I don't anticipate anyone getting the mass unit of injuries that the Niners do, but one significant injury to the Lions, to the Rams, to the Seahawks. Seattle gets hurt and Darnold is out. It's Jalen Milroe. What do you think that team looks like? Stafford goes down, or Stafford doesn't have his receivers. Remember last year when Stafford didn't have Kupp and Nakua for a couple games? He was garbage. Maybe weapons matter. Maybe players matter on offense and defense. Maybe defensive players, plural, matter. Not just one player coming in new would have made a difference against that Rams team yesterday. But this is not a waving the white flag year. This is I'm going to wave this flag and say, you're not going to ass rate me on a trade because we want Jermaine Johnson, but you want a second round pick. We'll give you a fourth or fifth. Kayvon Thibodeau, he's not worth a first. What planet are you? When you negotiate, you always aim high and you meet somewhere in the middle, but nobody was budging off their price. It's just that kind of year, guys, but still a lot of games left. And the next 4 games, the Niners are going to be favored. I don't have the schedule in front of me, but it's what? Arizona, Cleveland, Carolina, and Tennessee. Is that it? Cleveland game worries me because Jim Schwartz eats Kyle's lunch, and that's the type of defense that Kyle should be running, not this cover 3, bend but don't break shit. Because like I said, it works against bottom 12 quarterbacks. When you have a pass rush and the weapons on that other team aren't really there, but when you're going to get into playoff time or some of these better quarterbacks, which you're going to see, you're not seeing Stafford again, you're going to see Darnold again. Otherwise, you're going to see Jacoby Brissett and Dylan Gabriel, Cam Ward, Bryce Young, Daniel Jones, but Jonathan Taylor's an absolute beast, Caleb Williams, and Darnold the last week of the season. So they have, more than half of those games are eminently winnable and not fantastic quarterbacks. But when you get into the dance, we don't think the Niners are going far anyway. I said last podcast, their ceiling was 11-6, win the West, win a home game, getting bounced in the first round. Now I think their ceiling is 10-6, get into the playoffs, and lose a wild card game. But one more game of Niner football is better than one less game or not having it. But I understand for the fandom, that's not good enough. And I live in the Northeast and I live around a lot of Yankee fans. I think it's their right to life for World Series championships every year. And they haven't won one in 15 years, whatever it is. I'm not a Yankee fan, so I don't know. Niner fans are the same way. And I know it's been 31 years. But at least under the Harbaugh and Kyle Shanahan regime, they've been to the dance 3 times. Would have been great to get one. Would have been even better to get all 3. I get it. But this team is not the Cardinals. It's not the Titans. It's not the Browns. It's not the Panthers. It's not the Jaguars. It's not the Dolphins. It's not the Jets. It's not the Giants. Things could be a whole lot worse. And in a season where a whole lot of stuff's gone wrong, to be 6-4, yes, faithful, things could be a whole lot worse. So that's going to conclude the podcast for today. Like always, I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to make us part of your viewing or listening routine. We'll have another podcast either Thursday or Friday looking ahead to the Niners going to Arizona, which essentially now is a must-win game. Need another divisional game win, need another NFC win, and need to keep pace with the Rams and Seahawks, who will be playing each other. We will go over all of that on Thursday or Friday. Whatever you are doing between now and when we speak again, stay happy, healthy, and safe. We will talk soon. Take care.